Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnanam Jana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So today the subject matter is consideration of position and status within the Vaishnava society. This is a very important subject. If one doesn't know how to interrelate with others according to his social position, he won't be able to properly fit into the Vaishnava society. He won't be able to advance properly. Usually, if there's any difficulty in this regard, it is because someone thinks he is in a very equal way, or even higher than a superior. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is one example of this. When Jagadananda Pandit, he wanted to instruct Sanatana Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very upset because Sanatana Goswami was in a superior position. At this time he said, Adhika Langan Ami Sojjite Napari. He said, I cannot tolerate if someone over his position. Now, this consideration of social strata is an integral factor in Vedic society. This is pervertedly reflected in modern Indian people's obsession with status and status symbols. Everyone in India, we want to show when people meet, they'll ask, one of the first things, what is your educational qualification? By the name they'll understand what is your caste, and they like to understand how much money you've got. They're very much obsessed. They want to show they have a car, they have foreign clothes and so many foreign items. They're very much obsessed with status and status symbols. So you can say this is a perverted reflection of the Vedic society, which stratified people according to their actual position, according to their qualification. Now, still today in Bangladesh, traditional model of the social system as it was before, from which I personally learned how the Vaishnava or Vedic society, how people interrelate with each other. Now, if one is properly trained to understand and act within his position within the Vaishnava society, then it will help him very much to become free from envy. Because it will help us become free from envy, because it helps us to respect others properly and therefore not to disrespect. There are many functions which this stratification causes. It is stratification in society that is set up by Krishna himself. He says in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvanyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashaha, that I have set up the system of 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. I have personally done. I've made this division in society. The idea of that division is to help people advance towards the ultimate goal of Krishna consciousness. So, sometimes people protest that why there's all this stratification, we should be democratic. In the modern age they speak of democracy, which means that everyone should be equal. But as Srila Prabhupada has many times described in his preaching, it is not possible to make everyone equal. Different people have different qualities. In some ways, some person may be better than another, and in other ways, someone else may be better than another. For instance, a Brahmin is expected to be better in studying and explaining the scriptures. So in this way, he's better than others. But a Shudra, he'll be better than a Brahmin in farming the land, maybe, whatever his function is. So one is better in one way and one is better in another way, and it depends what values the society has, what kind of culture they have. Just like in Vedic society, One is one person who is someone who is spiritually advanced, who is learned in Shastra, he is honored. Even in the communist society, which is supposed to be egalitarian, they honor a worker who has high output. So they say it's all equal, but again they honor the worker who has got more output. So honor, there's no question of not giving prestige or honor to somebody. That must be there. But it's a question of who we give the honor to. That depends on the social system. So these are different functions of stratifying society. One function of stratifying society is to give it some structure. Society has to have some kind of structure. Anarchy, the idea of anarchy is a myth only. And also there are different organizations within the society which have different functions for the upliftment or maintenance or development of that society. So these different organizations, they may have their own status ladders or structures also. Just like within the material society, there's an army. So the army has a certain function, and according to its function, it has stratification and status and discipline. So within the army, someone who's a good fighter, who's very courageous, who's very disciplined, he is honored. And honor, because the necessity to maintain rank, to maintain discipline is so strong. So within the army, rank is topmost. Honor is given to rank. That means you're not allowed to argue with someone of a higher rank. So this is an example. There's so many organizations. There's business organizations, sports organizations. So ISKCON is the spiritual organization meant for understanding Krishna. So we have stratification also. So this discussion about stratification within society, it's useful both for ISKCON members individually and for the whole society, and also in consideration of the wider Vaishnava and Vedic society which the society is committed to setting up. Now, again, people may say that people are very suspicious about this. Some people are very suspicious about status within a society. But in Krishna consciousness, as opposed to the caste system, which is the perverted reflection of the Varnashram system, there is mobility. That means that just because you're born in a certain family doesn't mean that you have to stick in one position. Or even if you're now in status-wise a low position, you may be a brahmachari cleaning the floor, but the opportunity is there to rise to the topmost position. Another point is, of course, that in Krishna consciousness we're not concerned with status for its own sake. A real devotee, he'll be happy to clean the floor for Krishna for all his life. But if he's satisfied to do that, then actually he's an advanced devotee, and he'll be respected for that also. Now, in the Vedic society, and even now in Indian society, especially in the Indian society where the traditional model hasn't broken down so much, just like in the villages, or I was saying in Bangladesh, still that culture is very strong. In West Bengal also, in the villages of Orissa, especially this Vaishnava culture is quite strong still, traditional culture. So in that society, it is much more based on status, how people relate to each other, than in the West. Just like in the West, you can't imagine here. You can call out in a public meeting to the President of the United States might be addressing a meeting, and you can call out and you can call him all bad names and so many things. Or that you'll find the teachers and the pupils, they'll If the pupils are older especially, they'll relate to them in a very friendly way. They won't see that, or a very equal kind of way. They won't give special respect to the teacher, which is actually stupid, because you can't teach unless there's some prestige maintained. You can't. They have the idea everyone should have their rights, black people's rights, women's rights. In some countries they talk about children's rights. I've seen in Scandinavia that they have the idea everyone should be completely equal. So you'll find the mother with a 5-year-old child consulting the child, well, what do you think? And the child will give the opinion. And then they'll have a discussion what to do. They're just completely equal, which is ridiculous. Still, even in the West, friendship, marriage, etc., which is completely based on status in the Eastern cultures, still today. Still in the West, it's somewhat based on status. Just like usually, someone from working class will marry someone else from working class. Someone who's rich will marry, from a rich family will marry someone else who's rich, like that. Another function, one other thing I wanted to say was that even up till recently, before industrialization and modernization, even recently, one thing that Western people, they either forget or they don't know, and Eastern people who are imitating Western people also don't know, is that before the advent of modernization in the West, even their culture was in many ways similar to the Eastern culture. Just like someone wouldn't marry without permission from his parents, or even they would arrange, they would give respect to their parents. That was a very common thing, to give respect. Now the common thing is not to give respect. You can disrespect as much as you like. But that was, even in the West, it was a very common thing. It's only recently that all these things have broken down. So that's an important point to remember. The function of stratifying society is for productive social exchange. There are different kinds of people within society. Workers, merchants, administrators, doctors, teachers, they're all needed. But if you say that everyone is just equal, that's not only wrong, it's constitutionally the statement that everyone is equal is incorrect, but it's also counterproductive. That means that someone who's Shudra type, it's better for him if he accepts a subservient position and agrees to serve a master and be looked after by a master. And he'll live much more happily and nicely. But, now you may say the master may exploit him, this, that. But if he's not engaged in the service of a capable master, then he'll be exploited by someone else. In the modern age, the Shudras, they're given all independence. And they're allowed to vote and everything. It's ridiculous. The people have no idea what they're voting for. They all vote, and so therefore all the fools, they elect the biggest fool, or the biggest cheat. Even in the Western countries, where they're supposed to be very intelligent, where most people are literate, are supposed to be, you'll find that they do surveys and they find, like for instance, in 1962, I think it was, there was John F. Kennedy against Richard Nixon going for presidentship. So it was the closest election in American presidential history. John F. Kennedy just got it. So they made an analysis that why did Richard Nixon lose? Because on the last day of voting, he was very, very busy. He had a beard which grew very quickly, so he had to shave twice a day. Otherwise some stubble would come. So the last day he was so busy, and he didn't shave the second time. So in the evening, he came on TV with his face a little stubbly. So all the women, they didn't like that. They thought, he doesn't look so handsome. So their last decision, they weren't sure who to vote for, JFK or Nixon. They voted for JFK. So he won the election on good looks. Nonsense, all nonsense. So I want to speak of India, where people They're voting, they don't have any idea at all what the issues are. Just someone comes out and they say, oh, Garibi Hatao, or just some slogan. And they think just by voting, they thought by voting Indira Gandhi, they would have Garibi Hatao. But they didn't. Still, they're Garib. Just they're easily cheated. So they're better. They say that if the traditional Vedic system is a Shudra will work under a master, as either Vaishya or Kshatriya or Brahmin. They say, well, this is exploiting. But actually, if he's not exploited this way, he'll be exploited in another way. He'll be more cheated. And they'll give them money and independence, and they'll drink wine, and they'll smoke cigarettes, and they'll go to the cinema, and they don't know how to look after themselves. Whereas if they're under a master who knows, he'll look after them better. He'll look after them. He'll see that they get married, they have sufficient food, clothing, place to stay, all these things. Even now in India, you still see some rich man. He has a house, and he has his own joint family, big family, and they have their own Baba and their own cooks, and everyone's looked after, generation after generation. But now they're simply out on the street, living in some horrible jopapati or sleeping on the road. So actually, it's better for them to be subservient. And also, those who, just like the Brahmins, for instance, they can work better for the benefit of human society if they're put in their proper position. Now, someone who has the tendency to study Shastra, to be very peaceful, religious, he can do great service to society if he just spends his time studying, teaching, preaching, setting an ideal example for others. If someone comes, if two people come, they have some dispute, they'll know he's a neutral person, so he can perform the best service to society, and ultimately by preaching about God consciousness. But nowadays, there's no hope for such a person. He has to go out and get a job, work in a factory or something, or make a business. So he can't. Actually, someone who has the capacity to render the best service to society, he's not allowed to. They will force, everyone must go out and get a job. And they don't support them properly. So actually the Brahmins, they should be supported by the rest of society so they can give the best service. The number of Brahmins in society is not very great. So they won't, and they don't live a very luxurious life. So they won't be a great burden on society. At the present time, society is supporting all kinds of useless people. Just like they have top-heavy government. They have so many people in the government doing, actually not necessary to have so many people. So many people, they pass a form around 10 different offices. We can just go to one office, or maximum 2. But it has to be signed 10 times. Or they support all kinds of useless people, useless entertainers, sports players, who have no actual function in human society. They don't do anything valuable for human society. Instead of having these useless entertainers, previously people, they used to go listen to Mahabharata, listen to Ramayana, like this. But now they're spending billions of dollars for some prostitute to dance in the screen, cinema, and they think this is something wonderful. So, another function of stratifying society is that there is effective and productive social exchange. Now, consideration of status. There is consideration of status. Give respect to others on the basis of their different qualities, activities, and background. Now, some considerations for which people may be given status and offered respect are spiritual advancement, learning, his behavior, whether he behaves nicely with others or not, if his behavior is cultured or not, his family, just like here in Kanpur, if someone is from the J.K. Singhania family, even if he may be a fool or an idiot, which I don't think any of them are, but just I'm giving an example. Then just if he introduces, I'm the son of the brother of J.K. Singhania, then automatically people will give respect. So according to family, according to caste, this is one consideration. According to his ashram, also, one is a sannyasi, he may be given respect. According to his power, if someone is a very powerful person, somehow or other, if people are powerful, just like now, Narasimha Rao, of course he has the position, but he has power. Previously, an example of this, I'll give an example. This is a mundane example. There's the president and the prime minister. Now, theoretically, the president's position has more status than that of the prime minister. But factually, the prime minister's position has more status because he has more power. According to one's age, one may be respected. If one is older in age, that is another factor for giving respect. Position, if one has a big position. Money, if one has money, he is respected. According to his experience, achievements, ability to do things, if one is a very capable person, he'll be respected. Just like if we're all fiddling around trying to mend a tape recorder or something, and if someone walks in and he picks it up and he fiddles around with it for 5 minutes and he fixes it, whereas we're fiddling around for 2 hours, we can't work it out. So, some kind of respect. He knows what he's doing in this field. According to one's achievements, if someone's done something very wonderful in the past, just like Edmund Hillary, who became famous on his one achievement of climbing Mount Everest. Now they have this Guinness Book of Records. People, they do all kinds of stupid things just to show, I've achieved something which no one else has done. So, just on the basis of one's achievements. And Krishna consciousness also, according to one's achievements, that may be his experience, if one is very experienced in doing different things. According to his religiousness, now, if someone is, he follows some vows strictly, he may follow Chatamasya vow very strictly, he may recite Vishnu Sahasranam every day, or according to his religious activity, he may have visited many holy places. So according to one's religious activities, one may be respected, especially if one has renunciation and austerity, he is respected. If one has reputation and fame, he is respected. By relationship, for instance, that example we already gave, if your father is a great man, sometimes people introduce, they like to drop names. Oh yes, my best friend is Viela, and yes, I know Manmohan Singh and Narasimha. I know them. I know them. They're all my friends. So he may be not very significant himself, but he tries to boost his status, because if you have relationship with someone else who has status, then you also become status. Then by blood also, family ties. I think we already said that. Alright, these are different considerations on which respect is given. Now, according to different societies, they will put different values higher. For instance, in the Western countries, spiritual advancement and spiritual knowledge, they are rated very lowly. In fact, if one is spiritually advanced, among many people in the Western countries, they may consider this is not anything to be given respect for, but something to be made the object of jokes for. Their society is so degraded. So in that way we may say that even today India is more cultured. Not only India, but all those countries which aren't so much degraded. Even many countries, Thailand, Malaysia, many countries in Asia. Even in Africa, Arab countries, where the influence of Western culture hasn't become so strong. If someone is spiritually advanced, they'll give respect. But in the Western countries, they have no idea what spiritual advancement means. And if someone is interested in spiritual advancement, they'll often make a joke of him. It's said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vitameva Kalonanam, that in Kali Yuga, one will be respected mostly on the basis of his financial position. So that is the situation all over the world at the present time, that according to money one is respected. If one has got money, he may be a rogue, he may be a rascal, and many of the rich people, they get money by all dubious means. But somehow or other, if you have money, you may be a liar, a cheat, you may not follow you may be a meat eater, a drunkard, but if you have money, you're considered very respectable. You're considered a very good gentleman. Also, in the demoniac society, especially prominent in the Western country, but becoming very much prominent in India nowadays also, one is given prestige and respect according to his, in the case of men, bodily strength, and in the case of women, bodily beauty, on his sexual ability. These are considered symbols of prestige. Actually, in the Western countries, people, even if someone is very highly educated, PhD, this and that, people don't care at all. In India, if someone's PhD, they give so much respect. In the Western countries, they don't give a damn if you got a PhD. So the main thing is you have money, and if you're good looking and strong and healthy, and you're able to, and if you're expert at enjoying sense gratification, they'll give more respect. So this is the demoniac society. In the Vedic society, more respect is given to spiritual advancement, to austerity, renunciation, to position within the spiritual society. If one is a Brahmin, or especially if one is a sannyasi, he's given honor in the Vedic society. In Vaishnava society, the main criteria is, of course, spiritual advancement. How much one is developed in Krishna consciousness. The great example is there of Shukdev Goswami entering the assembly of sages at Shukatala, where Parikshit Maharaj was sitting, waiting for death. Now there were so many spiritually advanced persons there. Even the Guru and Param Guru of Shukdev, namely Vyasadeva and Narad Muni, they were there. So many sages and demigods, very respectable persons. Shukdev was a young boy, but they could understand he was the most spiritually advanced, therefore they gave him the Vyasa. Now the main criteria is spiritual advancement. But most non-devotees and even many devotees, they don't know how to measure spiritual advancement, and they tend to think in terms of position only. People think that if someone has a position within the society, or then he's spiritually advanced. They think the two go together. They don't actually always go together. They should do. Only spiritually advanced devotees should take sannyas, should become gurus, should become temple presidents. And actually, especially just like the position of sannyas is offered to someone. Now, one reason why should someone take sannyas is because within the society of devotees, and especially in India, in the wider society that we're preaching in, people tend to give respect to sannyasis. So if someone has some work to do in the matter of preaching Krishna consciousness or instructing others, then that is very conducive if he has that position, that people know that here is someone who's been recognized by other leaders within the society, therefore he's been offered the sannyas order of life. Therefore, what he says must have some weight. So, spiritually, or devotees who are somewhat spiritually developed, although they don't have to for their own spiritual advancement, they generally accept a position so as to help others to advance by giving them instruction. So, guru, sannyasi, all of these persons are senior devotees. They're respected. One reason is because by respecting them, you please Krishna. Krishna is pleased with those who uphold this system and who offer respects to his devotees. And also, by respecting them, by taking a subservient position, one can learn from them. You can't learn if you think, oh, I know as good as him. You can't learn. So, that respect should be there. Now, you can say this is one social factor. Somehow or other, if someone who's in a senior position, like guru or sannyasi, isn't actually as spiritually advanced as he should be to have that designation, still he should be offered that respect, just to maintain the system within Vaishnava society. The guru's godbrothers, according to Shastra, they should be offered respect as much as the guru. Senior devotees, they're to be offered respect. Just like if someone's been in the movement many years, he may not have, if he hasn't fallen down, he's been very steady, especially a senior brahmachari, he may not have taken sannyas, and he may not, in some ways, he may not be suitable for taking sannyas, in as much as he may not be a very dynamic leader, he may just be doing some humble kind of service. He may not be expert in the duties which a sannyasi is supposed to be, just like explaining scriptures and this and that. But if he's maintained brahmacharya many, many years, and if he's maintained steadiness in Krishna consciousness, even if he's just acting like a normal devotee in many ways, he should also be offered respect. He should be considered a senior devotee, because actually it's not an ordinary thing to just stay in this movement. There are many tests one will have to go through, many difficulties, many temptations from Maya. So if one just stays, then even if he's from no other point of view, just the fact that he's stayed many, many years, he should also be considered senior, and some respect should be offered to him. Senior godbrothers, they are respected almost as much as guru. This is stated in Shastra. Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that Prahlad Maharaj, he treated his senior godbrothers almost as much as his guru. Why is that? Because they act in many ways almost as the guru acts, or they teach like that. Just like myself, I know. And the same example is there for most devotees. When they joined this movement, I wasn't trained personally by Prabhupada, but I was trained by my godbrothers. Later I took initiation, so they were my godbrothers. I was trained by my godbrothers who had received training from Prabhupada, or maybe they'd received training from others who had received training from Prabhupada. So all the basic things, the basic philosophy, practices, behavior, all these things, songs, mantras, I was taught by my senior godbrothers. So, that respect should be given to them, senior God brothers. Now, we'll find in many Vaishnava societies, for instance, in Gauriya Math, they're very conscious of this. And when two devotees meet, they'll ask, when did you take initiation? Which year? Then they'll find out who's the most senior. Maybe 1 year difference. And if it's the same year, then they'll say which month. And then even they'll find out which day. And if someone's initiated 1 day before the other, he'll consider he's senior. They're so much rigid. Of course, we may not be so much rigid. There are other factors apart from length of time in the movement, but that is another factor, the length of time one has been within this movement. Now we're talking about taking instruction from senior God brothers and considering them almost as good as guru. After one advances, the relationship may adjust. That means one may have been trained up by some devotees who are 5 years in the movement. Now, after 5 years, then you're a 5-year devotee and they're a 10-year devotee. And in many ways, just now you know the philosophy, how to act within Krishna consciousness, and in many ways you're equals. But still, one should never forget who helped him in the first place. Therefore, one should always keep that some respect. It may be familiar, but with respect also. Now, according to Vedic social custom, Grihastha, he worships sannyasis. Sannyasi comes to his home, he actually worships him. But within our ISKCON society, if the Grihastha is also very much active in the Krishna consciousness movement, in some ways there may not be so much difference between the Grihastha and the sannyasi, in as much as both are fully engaged in Krishna's service. Prabhupada said that all of my devotees, they're sannyasis, in as much as Lord Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita, Anashrita karma palang karyam karma karoti yaha sasannyasi cha yogi cha naniragnena chakriyaha. An actual sannyasi is one who's fully engaged in Krishna's service. So, in some ways, there may not be that much difference. Still, Grihastha should respect sannyasi. Even sometimes the Grihastha, he may be doing, it may appear he's doing more service than the sannyasi. Sannyasi may be leading a quiet life and doing his bhajan and giving some lectures, and one Grihastha may be organizing a temple with so many functions. Still, as a matter of social custom, the Grihastha devotee gives respect. That I fell down into, he should think like this, I fell down into Grihastha life. I have so many social functions, I have to look after my children and talk to my wife, but the sannyasi has remained aloof from that. So he should maintain that. Now, other qualities which, apart from taking sannyas, being a guru, and his spiritual advancement, another point about this, spiritual advancement, one may be spiritually advanced, he may not have a very big position in our society. The two don't necessarily go together. It's not necessarily true that one with a high position is spiritually advanced. Or he may have been spiritually advanced, but he may be becoming weak. So we should not judge spiritual advancement according to one's position. Someone may be very spiritually advanced, he may be a humble brahmachari or grihastha and not even show, he may not be, he may be doing some humble service. Of course, one who is spiritually advanced, those others who are spiritually advanced, they will recognize. Now, other points of giving respect. One is, so if someone has position in ISKCON or in any society, he should be respected. An example is there. Sanatana Goswami kept some Brahmins for reading Srimad Bhagavatam when he was in the service of Nawab Hussain Shah. Now, when the Nawab, who was a Muslim, meat-eater, a rogue, he was actually a rogue. He got that position by murdering the previous Nawab, whose servant he was. But when he came into the assembly of Sanatana Goswami and the Brahmins, they all stood up to give him respect. Because it's considered somehow or other he's been given this position. So he's a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in materialistic society, respect is given to a position. And in our ISKCON society also, for instance, if someone is a GBC member, temple president, he has to be given respect because he has to maintain the discipline. Srila Prabhupada said that temple president, he has to maintain the discipline. Just like there are certain rules and regulations which everyone in the temple is supposed to follow, like rising early, attending all the temple programs, like this. So, the temple president, he has to maintain the discipline. Therefore, he has to be respected. Also, it should be considered that if someone has such a position, then it means that he's recognized by other senior Vaishnavas. He's been given the service to do by other senior Vaishnavas. So, he must be suitable for this. So one should follow the instructions. That, of course, there may be discussion with that, but the general point is one should follow the instructions of temple president. Position should be respected. Now, also learning. This is another factor by which one may be respected in the Vaishnava or in any or in the Vedic culture in general, if one is learned. Now, this is surprisingly lacking in our ISKCON society at the present time. This is a personal observation, that even in Karmi society, or Hindu society we can say, if someone is very learned in Shastra, he's respected. Even those names are there, Trivedi, Chaturvedi, based on one's learning in Shastra. But at the present time, although the situation has improved in the last few years, the tendency is to give respect very much to position and money also. Frankly speaking, if someone in our society has a lot of money, he's given a lot of respect. If someone is in charge of BBT or a zone with a lot of money or a temple with a lot of money, people, they tend to give respect. But actually, these qualities, spiritual advancement, learning in Vedic culture, learning is given a lot of respect to. The Brahmin, he's called Pandit because he's learned. Nowadays they call anyone who's born in a Brahmin family, he may be a panwala, they may call Pandit. He's not actually Pandit. Pandit means one who's learned. Of course, the real definition of Pandit is given by Chanakya Pandit. That verse is there. That then what is it? Paradravyena lostravat. Then next point is given. Atmavat sarvabhuteshu ya pashyati sa pandita. One who thinks of everyone's wife except his own as mother. One who thinks of others' property as garbage in the street. In other words, he won't touch it. And one who treats others as himself. thinks of others as himself, he is a Pandit. But specifically, Pandit means one who is learned. The result of learning is he should be able to see in such a way. So one who knows Shastra, he should be respected, actually. Learning is a very important part of Vaishnava society. Not everyone can be learned. Those who are learned, or have the tendency to become learned, they should be given facility to do so. Not so they become puffed up by learning. And that means he hasn't learned anything. So they can render service to others by teaching them. So, learning, renunciation. If one practically has renunciation, that should be respected. Sadhu is supposed to live a very simple, renounced life. So if one has actual renunciation, he is to be respected. Prabhupada said something like that. Sannyasi is respected for his practical renunciation. His qualities and behavior, if one has good qualities, then he should be respected for that. You see some devotees in our movement, their behavior is very cultured, considerate. I can think Bhakti Charu Maharaj is well known for that. Jagadish Maharaj, their behavior. Many, Rohini Nandan Prabhu in England, they're known for their good behavior. So people respect them for that. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks of the Brahmins' qualities. Shamo, Dhamma, Tapat, Shocham. All these qualities. Chantir, Arjivam, Evacha. Jnanam, Vijnanam, Astikyam, Brahma Karma, Svabhavaja. So if one has developed qualities, such as these Brahminical qualities, which are peacefulness, self-control, austerity, cleanliness, tolerance, straightforwardness, knowledge, wisdom, and firm faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the respect should be there for these things. Dedication to service. One is respected for his dedication to service. That he goes on with his service, and he doesn't always need to be told to do it. But he goes on, he doesn't always have to be told to do it, he goes on very steadily with his service, year after year. Whether it's deity worship, or book distribution, or anything else. This is the sign of a serious devotee, that he's dedicated to serving Krishna according to his capacity and the service allotted to him. So this is another point on which someone may be respected. Now, and there are other qualifications by which one may be respectable. Another is age. Now, inside Vaishnava society and outside, old people who whose bodies are old, they need some kind of looking after. When they get older, especially those who are very old, they need some assistance. They need some kind of respect. Psychologically, they need it. It's very difficult for old people to be treated as equals, or to be treated in a very equal way by juniors. Nor is it's not considered proper in Vedic society. Older people should always be offered respect. By dint of their practical experience in life, they're supposed to be wise, and therefore they can give advice to others. Their body may be old, but often their mind is very active. They have a lifetime of thoughts, realizations, and experiences. So they should be respected. They still have service to perform. Not that in the demoniac society, they think if someone can no longer work physically or do something productive, they call this productive. If someone can do a factory job or something, then he's considered productive, and then they retire people and they're considered unproductive. But the Vedic culture is much more practical, that even after people have retired, they still are very productive, they're very, very useful, they have a lot of input to human society in terms of giving advice based on their experience and realization, and also the fact that they're not running around here and there. They're detached somewhat from all the activities. So therefore they can see each situation with some neutrality. And also older people, they're supposed to be engaged more or less full time in religious activities. So their mind becomes very purified. So they should be respected. In the Vaishnava society and in any society. Now, by caste, still in India we have Brahmin caste, Kshatriya, and especially the Brahmins are considered respectable. Of course, that's all broken down or breaking down. Now so many Brahmins are eating meat and doing so many things which they shouldn't do. To quite some extent, and also our own Guru Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to a lesser extent, but to some extent, because the culture had broken down more in between the time of Saraswati and Prabhupada. But they'd also give some respect to Brahmins. Sometimes you see someone would introduce, "Oh, you're a Brahmin, that's nice." But Saraswati Thakur would give some special respect, considering that for so many generations, now they may be fallen, but previously for so many generations, their forefathers used to worship the deities. They used to be pure. So they still have some heritage. Used to consider like that. Of course, this is not any factor at all in the West. And even the Indians who are there, there's no difference between Brahmins. They're mostly all Vaishyas anyway. Of course, they import some Brahmins for doing puja from India. That's a different thing. But those who are settled there, 5-6 generations, there's no difference whatsoever. Even within the caste, there's divisions. Someone is considered a better family, the better kind of Brahmin, isn't it? But some families, they're considered higher Brahmins than others. There's so much. Even within the sannyasi, we see that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he said, when he first saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, "Oh, you've taken sannyas as a Bharati, but if you like, I can train you up, and I can give you sannyas in a better order of sannyasis." So there's so much gradation. Ashram, within the ashram there are different ashrams. Of course, the sannyasa ashram is considered the best. And there's also brahmachari. When they're young boys, If someone is a brahmachari for a long time, he's often considered almost as good as a sannyasi. And vanaprastha also. Grihastha is not. There's no special position for grihastha. Although there are those who say that grihastha is the best ashram. Even in Shastra, sometimes it's said that that's to encourage the grihasthas. But actually, grihastha means one who's attached. Anyway, the sannyasi is considered the guru of all the varnas and all the ashrams. Now, money shouldn't be a factor among devotees. We already discussed that. But money is also a factor for status, especially in karmi society. Now, how should we should also give respect to moneyed people. There's an interesting story in this regard. That someone approached Prabhupada and said that You have your life membership programs. It seems to be catering mostly to moneyed people, not to ordinary people. So Prabhupada, he laughed and he said, the person criticized it, this isn't properly following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Prabhupada laughed and he said that one thing is that I am not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's God, he can do everything by himself. But I need some help to spread this movement all over the world. So we also need some money. So those who by their karma have got some money, they can help us with this movement. So if moneyed people come, we treat them very nicely and look after them, because they can help the Krishna conscious movement with their money. Generally by money, they're using their money to go to hell. But we can use their money in Krishna's service and engage them. In this way they can become purified. They can engage their money in Krishna's service. So we should not be callous to that. And of course, when we engage people's money in Krishna's service, then it's not that our man also made a wrong observation. Of course, if a moneyed person comes, then we may treat him nicely this time. But it's not that we're only for moneyed people. People give money, and we build a big temple so that everybody can come. Take darshan, take prasad, and anyone and everyone is welcome to join this movement. And mostly very moneyed people, they don't join because they're too attached. So this is some consideration. Another consideration is according to going back to that, if one is senior in years in the movement, we were saying it's a sign of some achievement. But someone who leaves and comes back, you can't consider that. Obviously he shouldn't be offered the same kind of respect as someone who stayed. Just like someone may say, I'm a Prabhupada disciple. But he may have been in the movement, but he may have been fallen down for 10 years outside the movement. Or someone may say, yes, I was initiated in 1980. But in 1981 he bloomed, and in 1990 he came back. So, yes, I'm initiated in 1980. But he hasn't followed. So, one who stayed and followed, not someone who goes and comes. He may not be offered. It's not a very respectable position. So, achievements is another. Achievements, activities, abilities. Srila Prabhupada himself, I'm giving an example of Prabhupada. One reason Prabhupada is honored so much because of his achievements. Now, so many of Prabhupada's godbrothers, Prabhupada said they had so many qualifications. They were so learned. They were sannyasis many years before he was. They had so much personal association with Bhakti and Saraswati Thakur. But they may have been theoretically able to do so many things which Prabhupada did, but they didn't. Prabhupada did it. So his achievements, and actually they may say that we could have done it also, but I don't believe it. Prabhupada, if they could do it, why didn't they? Anyway, that's another discussion. But Prabhupada, his one